Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to post a little quick video for you tonight, going in, starting the holiday weekend here on Memorial Day. And I just posted this on Facebook a second ago. I think it's super, super important, and it is real short, but it gets straight to the point. I named it Premeditated. About a month before the murder attempt, the ex-wife and I separated, and she took my life insurance books with her. These books told her that I was paying for an accidental death policy that would add almost $500,000 to the payout if my murder was ruled an accident. And my sister-in-law, Mitzi Webb, told me she saw them books while they were gone from my house, so she could verify that. There's no doubt that the murder attempt on my life was made to look like an accident. Proof was found showing that I wasn't shot with my gun, and it's believed that I was shot with a .45 handgun loaded with a special plastic tip pellet-filled bullet to make it look like I had been. They shot me from point-blank range directly at an artery with my phone lines cut. The plan was for me to bleed out and die. I believe that Detective Rosie Rodriguez, who was a lifelong friend of the ex-wife, was planning on ruling my murder an accident to make her friend rich, and the big prize was my special home, since it has the underground home in the backyard. She did falsely rule this failed murder an accident, so I don't think there's no doubt she was going to rule my murder an accident. Some people have asked, why didn't they shoot you twice? And the answer is because they couldn't call this an accident then. The former boyfriend of the ex-wife, Arthur Welch, told me in 2012 that he believed she had a lot to do with the shooting and that she threatened to have him killed too. This document was read in court, 2013. In 2020, Arthur posted on his Facebook that he had overheard her planning my murder to steal life insurance with her police friends. Never forget that nobody accidentally breaks into a private home and accidentally shoots the unsuspecting homeowner by surprise. That was premeditated, okay? And here I'm going to show you, this come off, off Arthur Welch's Facebook. He posted it out there for everybody to read, and this was 8 years after he had told me that he believed the ex-wife was involved. And so he writes, cops were recorded hiding evidence and laughing about this man being shot. I was dating this guy's ex-wife when I overheard her talking, and from the things I heard, she had tried to have him killed for insurance money. And to hear how many police were involved, one, her longtime personal friend. That's Rosie Rodriguez, Detective Rosie Rodriguez. I won't let Buddy Wayne Webb be laughed at. Her final words were to me was, I'll have you shot too. Okay. And so Arthur Welch's story didn't change. There's the date on it. That's when he posted it on June 28, 2020. His story didn't change in 8 years. Okay, here we go. There are multiple proofs found showing that I not shot with my gun, which means that somebody sneaked in my home and shot me. I mean, that's super, super important here. Let's let this clear up here a little bit. And I'll go over some of these bullet points. What fact? The size of pellets removed from my gun were 2.5 sizes different from what was in my foot. This ballistic evidence proved that I was not shot with my gun. That means somebody else shot me. Okay. The ER doctor said that he removed a large amount of plastic from the wound, which would not have been there if I'd been shot with my shotgun. I believe the reason the plastic was there is because I shot with that Glazer safety slug, a plastic tip, pellet-filled bullet, to make it appear that I was shot with a shotgun. Okay. Lisa Rogers was documented telling me that I was shot with the .45 handgun, and that fits the tight space requirements of the tiny room I was in. Okay. And then there wasn't enough physical room for me to be shot with a 4-foot-long gun in that tiny utility room. A large group of police were caught on camera covering up this murder attempt, which took 6 years and a $2,000 reward to get identified. And in 2019, proof was found showing that police were under my home. It was somebody under my home that shot me. Proof was found showing that doctors faked x-rays at the hospital where they took the foot of somebody else that had been shot with a shotgun and put my name on them, the x-rays of the foot of somebody else. This was because I hadn't been shot with a shotgun. Detective Rosie Rodriguez stated that she found a tripwire on my shotgun, but there's no tripwire in evidence, and none of the other dozen police mentioned a tripwire, including CSI Marty Barrett, that said he picked up my gun, and he's the one that checked it into evidence. He didn't have no tripwire. She lied. CSI Marty Barrett picked up my gun from my home and then checked it into evidence, along with 4 live shells in it, but he didn't check in an empty shell. If I'd been shot with my gun, then it would have been in my gun. The empty shell would have been in my gun, and Barrett would have had to unload the empty shell before he could get the live shells out of it. And he didn't check in an empty shell. MBD Lieutenant Dickey was inside my home at 11:05 p.m., but he wasn't seen arriving on the security camera that saw Woodward and Naylor 4 minutes earlier. This told me that he came into my home from the now removed underground entrance that the ex-wife had already told me about, and from where I'd been ambushed and shot. And it wasn't just Dickey, but we also Davis, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale. And it just makes sense that also the first two that showed up at my house up front was Martin County Sheriff John Woodward and the late Midland Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor. They were out front, seen on camera, that they were also under my house. They just didn't come from under my house. They drove around front. And so I believe they were too. And the real possible Rosie Rodriguez and April Chandler too. And so there's the proof. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's way many, multiple proofs showing I wasn't shot with my gun. That means somebody came to my home and shot me. That means somewhere out there is a killer that breaks into homes, cuts phone lines, and shoots unsuspecting homeowners. Keep in mind, that's what Charles Manson and his gang did. They cut the phone lines. And these people are like Charles Manson on steroids. Just think if Charles Manson had Rosie Rodriguez to help him murder innocent homeowners, he'd probably still be killing people. The ER nurse documented me telling Detective Rosie Rodriguez that proof was at my house. That proof was a voice recorder that had recorded the burglar alarms going off before I was shot. It proved that I was shot during a home invasion. Officer April Chandler said that she found it along with my 222 guns, and they were checked into evidence. But they wasn't checked into evidence. The evidence log showed that Matt Davis checked in the guns, but he did not check in the voice recorder until about a year later, and that only happened because I made a big point of the police stealing evidence that I told them about. Matt Davis quit the police in 2013, and in 2020, he wrote me on my YouTube channel and said, "I stole the evidence, buddy. Nobody will ever find out." He was bragging about covering up a premeditated, capital attempted murder that's going to make the friend of Rosie Rodriguez rich. Okay. Let's see if this will clear up real quick and pop up. It should. It's a little blurry at first. Okay, there it is. Right here at the top in this section right here, this is the nurse's notes. I just did a video on the nurse's notes. And, and you can see where I said, I have proof. Just go look, there's proof. And that's where I was telling Rodriguez. And Rodriguez was in the room, time-stamped in the room at the time, okay? And here's Chandler. She says she found my voice recorder along with my 222 guns, and they were checked into evidence, but I found that to be a lie. And it looked like Matt Davis checked in the 22s, but not the voice recorder. That's what the voice recorder looked like. Like I said, it recorded the burglar alarms going off, proving I was shot during a home invasion. And this was in November 2019. Matthew Davis posted, "I stole the evidence and nobody will ever find out, buddy." I mean, so we got police stealing evidence in a premeditated, capital attempted, for-profit murder and bragging about it online, and nothing's happened, nothing's changed. And the last picture here, I said there are lifelong consequences for the victims of violent crime. I took this just a second ago, and I just wanted to show you that's what I walk around on every day. And I'm they tried to cut my leg off, and I wouldn't let them, but I give God all the praise and glory that I'm alive. This was definitely premeditated, cold-blooded murder. And if they tried to kill me, I suspect they killed the guy that lived here before me. And Aaron Packelhofer told me 4 people had been murdered, died in my house. This is Wabadi Way of Midland, Texas.